This is the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. And welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. I am your humble host, and with me today is Thomas. Hello.
Hey, John.
We don't know each other, but I think by the end of this podcast episode, we'll know a little bit more about one another.
That sounds good.
I just want to start off by saying, I already said it to you, but I want to say it so that my listeners hear as well. I am extremely grateful. I thank you for coming on and doing this episode. You are a gentleman who has been incarcerated both in the United States and here in Norway. So you have I would imagine you have a very interesting story to tell. And again, God bless you for coming on and telling that story. Not everybody wants to talk about things like that.
Nah, well, I don't really mind. Because my story is a little bit different than the usual. The common guy on the street. So, I didn't always make the right choice, and I paid my consequences.
You know, it's kind of like an extra extraordinary story because, first of all, the common guy on the street usually has never been incarcerated. And then if you take those people, the normal guy on the street, that normal guy on the street has, if he's been incarcerated, he probably hasn't been incarcerated in 2 countries.
No, that's true.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting story that you have. Tell me a little bit about your background. Maybe
well,
what led you, because you were first incarcerated in the United States, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about a little bit about your life story leading up to that.
Well, I'm half, like my dad is Norwegian and my mom's American. So,
Okay.
and they met many years ago because my dad was a water skier. So he moved to
Ah,
Florida so he can train a lot more,
yeah, yeah.
And so that's how that all started. And then, well, I moved, I was born in Florida, but then I moved to Norway when I was a year old. But then I was a lot back and forth.
Okay. Okay. So you feel like you have like a fairly equal connection to both countries then, I
I
would
feel
assume.
like 100% 50-50.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, but then when I moved, I went to high school down in the States, Haines City High in Florida, and
Okay.
got into the hip hop and and everything that follows with it, and drugs and stuff like that. And but I was,
Let me ask you how old you are. I'm trying to place you now on a timeline when you were
pretty,
doing high school in Florida.
I'm 32 years old, so this was
Okay.
about 2005, I would,
Okay.
or so, 2004
Okay.
maybe.
I'm not familiar with that town in Florida. What is it? What big city is it close to?
Uh, Davenport. Have you?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know where that is. Yeah.
it's not that far from Davenport.
Okay.
So, but it was a big high school compared to like what I was used to in Norway.
Yeah.
Everything's a
Yeah.
lot smaller here. It's like
Yes. Everything is.
yeah, it's like a couple thousand students, and
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of different culture. It was
Yeah.
it's hard to fit in a little bit, but I did all right.
I can imagine it would be easy to get lost in the crowd. And, some of these high schools in the States are like, a college here in
Yeah,
Norway,
that's
just to
true.
put it into comparison. And you're at that tender age where you're developing, you're a teenager, you're very unsure of yourself.
Yeah,
And then you're in this huge number of literally thousands of different personalities and a lot of temptations.
yeah,
Like you mentioned the hip hop scene and then the drugs and I
yeah,
don't know, was alcohol involved
yeah.
as well?
Alcohol and just basically the party scene, and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and everybody, so I was just trying to fit in and find my place, and it was, it was like it was ghetto. It was police officers posted at the school every day, five
And
patrol.
that's something we don't see here in Norway.
No, you had to go through a metal detector to get into the school.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a lot of gangs and stuff, you know.
Now, what was the racial makeup of that high school? Was it a decent mix between black, white, and Hispanic, or?
It was mostly African American, Hispanic.
Okay,
So I was
Okay, so
like the minority.
you were really isolated, yeah.
Yeah,
And that must be an interesting dynamic shift to be in a very clear majority here in Norway
yeah,
to go over to the minority, the very clear minority at this high school in Florida.
yeah. That was a little bit different, but I mean, it was I didn't have any because of I didn't have any racial feelings.
No,
So I didn't treat anybody like different, so they didn't treat me different.
right.
So
And isn't that really the solution to most issues that have to do
yeah,
with race?
I
Because
can't stand it.
people, I had an episode that I did yesterday. It'll be coming out in about a week, where I talked with a gentleman about race, specifically about race for the whole episode, and we agreed, very much agreed that people are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
People are pretty much the same, and when you start treating people like they're not the same, that's when the issues come up. I mean, it's
So
really simple. It really is.
I know I never really got the whole thing, and I think like
No.
the media keeps it alive in a way because people are sharing like showing one side, making people want to take sides,
Well, I
and
think the media, yeah, the media plays a part, but I always go to the individual.
yeah,
I mean, people need to allow themselves to show how smart they are.
yeah,
Some people
sure,
just don't even try to think for themselves. They listen to that media message and they
yeah,
just run with that. And if you do that, yeah, you're gonna be paranoid about racial issues. You're gonna hate the other side, or at least be suspicious of the other side. But you are a living testament to the fact that you can, you can
yeah,
be a minority,
yeah,
something that you're not used to, and yet you still get along with everybody because you treat them the same.
yeah. It's just getting to know people as on a human, just as a regular human being, and it was actually a really nice experience because I never understood racism. I never got it.
Yeah,
I'm like
yeah,
people, sometimes people are like, oh, try to pull the racist card on me, and I'm like, no, 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 I'm Norwegian. I'm Norwegian.
yeah, yeah.
uh, oh, okay.
Well, that's very interesting because now my wife is Norwegian. She's Samisk,
Oh,
actually.
really?
And I have a friend. Now, I grew up in a very white small town in Ohio.
Yeah,
So I was one of two black guys in my high school
yeah,
class. No big deal. It is what it is. It was what it was. But I had an old high school friend who got in touch with me a few years ago on Facebook, and she said, "Oh, I always knew that you would marry a white girl." And I said, "Hold on a minute." I said, "Hold on a minute. I didn't marry a white girl. I married a Norwegian."
there's a difference.
There's a big difference. There's a
Yeah.
big difference. No, but so you say that you treated everybody the same when you were there, but how did they treat you?
Well, at first they were like unsure, because
Yeah,
I didn't act, I didn't act like the other white people at that school.
exactly. Because, well, and that's an example that it's not necessarily a racial thing, but it is a cultural thing.
Cultural thing.
Yes,
Really, yeah, because
it really is.
I was into the necklaces, the chains, and I was into, the baggy jeans, and
Yeah, yeah.
so everybody started just calling me for Slim, Slim.
Uh,
Teacher asked us like, the teacher asked one day, she's like, why do they call you Slim? Do you look like him or something? And I'm like, no, it's just because I'm white and I don't act like it.
there
And
you go.
everybody started laughing, because it's like, oh, he got it.
Yeah.
Nah, but it's just don't treat people different. Just be yourself is the most important thing. And just
So the problems that you had in high school then in Florida, it didn't have anything to do with race. It just had to do with you being in that
yeah,
scene with the drug scene and whatnot.
yeah. And I mean, you had the rednecks there too. I mean, they were just
Oh,
as bad.
this is Florida. We're
This
talking
is
about Florida,
Florida.
right?
You got the guys walking around with the camo jackets and
Yeah,
when they were just as bad into the drugs too.
sure.
So it doesn't really select anybody. You know what I'm saying?
What was the most popular drug at that time?
It was mostly weed, marijuana.
Mostly weed. Okay,
Yeah, but then of course that escalated into
sure.
yeah. But it wasn't.
Probably ecstasy, meth.
Yeah,
Just thinking about what I know about Florida. Yeah.
it's a lot of meth. and ecstasy and cocaine, and but I
Yeah.
kind of evolved into all that, and but I actually did all right. I mean, I did school, but it was really hard because I learned most of my schooling in Norwegian, and now I got to learn in English. I knew the language and I could speak the language, but I was already a bad student in Norway, you know.
A bad student in both languages.
Yeah, so it
How
didn't.
was that? Was that how big of a challenge was that? How much time did you have to use before you adjusted to actually having to learn your schoolwork in English? Because it is a difference. I see it
Yeah,
all the time. I speak fluent Norwegian, but if I'm going to speak Norwegian about a specific subject, maybe something technical,
yeah,
I kind of have to search for my words. I kind of have to, readjust mentally. So I can only imagine how that would be to go to school full time.
yeah. That was actually really hard. I felt like I gave up.
Did you?
I gave up on the schooling, and just that was basically just there, just kind of. But I was young and dumb and didn't really care about my future. I kind of had that problem. I don't know, just
Did you have both your parents at home at that time?
well, when I started school there, my dad was still in back in Norway, so no, just my mom. She was busy, so
Okay. Do you think that played a part then in you kind of falling by the wayside and getting involved in, the
yeah.
wrong crowd? Yeah.
I was the youngest one, and I have two older sisters, and I mean, they were kind of self-driven. Well, I kind of like wore my parents out, so they kind of just
Yeah.
gave up a little bit. They were getting tired, you know. I mean,
Right.
so it happened. It is what it is. I mean, I caught everything up later in life. I actually have an education, but so I caught it back up. But I mean, I went a lot of side roads at the same time.
And I nobody has an easy path.
Yeah,
Nobody has a perfect past. Nobody has a perfect present either.
yeah,
But I think that people who meet a lot of adversity up through the years, the ones who have that kind of bumpy road,
yeah,
towards success, those are the ones that are really successful.
yeah,
Those are the ones that are really grounded. Those are the ones that really have their shit together,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Because
Yep,
you've seen it, you've learned from it,
yeah,
and now you're living.
yeah.
And yeah,
And you become so less judgmental about everybody else and stuff like that because every path is its own.
yeah,
So
yeah,
once like I've been through hard times, I've been through good times. I don't judge anybody.
yeah. And it's an old cliche. You can't judge anyone until you've walked a mile in their shoes. But it's so true.
that
No,
is that is true.
you don't know what the past is for every person you meet. Everybody has a past, and you have no idea what they've been through.
Yep. So I mean
Yeah,
that's just helps me out. Just like if somebody snaps at me or something, just oh I don't know, maybe he had a bad day. Just
yeah,
brush it off and keep
yeah,
going.
yeah.
Don't take
Um,
offense.
let me ask you this then. What was your first encounter with the law? When was that? Were you still in high school at that time, or was it after?
No, it was a little bit in high school, but it wasn't much. I mean, it was just because of the dogs running around the school and stuff, trying to find all the drugs and stuff. And I lucked out a couple times. I didn't get caught, but no, I was 18 when I first got arrested,
Okay.
and it
Tell us
was
about it.
yeah, it was I have an my oldest sister. She's 6 years older than me. So when I was 18, she was with this guy. And that was not good. I mean,
Yeah.
really into the drugs and stuff like that. And I was listening to them fighting one night, and I got involved, and he got in between me and my sister. We weren't fighting; we were just arguing, and he pushed me a couple times, and I told him, "Don't push me again," and he
And
did.
he did.
I hit him twice and caught him back here on the second one, and ended up breaking his jaw. So it was kind of serious. So I got the police showed up and they're like, "Oh, you got to come with us, but you'll be out in the morning. Don't worry." I'm like, "Okay, I'll just go." Then I showed up to first arraignment, you know, on a webcam court from jail. I've got the orange suit on, the chains,
The full workup.
yo. And then I go up front of the judge, and I didn't really know about the court system, how it worked, how nothing, you know. And
Sure. Yeah. Why would you? Why would you? You know,
yeah, so and then I'm like, the judge says, uh, anger, anger, battery, and assault. Uh,
aggravated,
aggravated
aggravated battery.
battery and assault.
So
And
that's a felony. That's a felony charge then. Yeah.
yes, it was a second-degree felony. And uh,
How'd you feel when you heard him say those words? I mean, that really brings it home when you're in front of a judge, you know, with no experience in the court system at all.
uh,
And all of a sudden you're in front of a judge and he tells you that you're being charged with aggravated battery and assault,
well,
class 2 felony. How'd you feel?
the class two felony really kind of sounded scary, but
Yeah,
the
yeah, you
rest
know.
I didn't really understand that much. I mean, I got assault, but because of the aggravated battery, it being even more so. And but then when he said 1 to 15 years in prison, that's when my heart,
That's when your soul probably just
yeah,
took a nap and said, "I'm out of here."
yep. I just and I'm like,
Oh,
and I'm trying to plead my case right then and there. I'm like, nah,
sure,
I'm
sure,
innocent.
yeah.
I'm innocent. It was self-defense, self-defense. And they're like, next. I'm like,
Did you have a public defender or did you have your own lawyer
no, I
or a
didn't.
private lawyer?
Yeah, no, I had a public defender.
Public defender, yeah.
And then no, actually, I was able to get my own lawyers a little bit later. But
Okay.
so
So at that preliminary hearing, then he tells you what you're being charged with, and did he deny bail?
no, I got a bail on $10,000
You,
bond.
okay,
But me not knowing anything about bail bondsmen and stuff like that, I'm thinking $10,000 is $10,000. I don't got no $10,000.
okay. So you thought you had okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
like, okay. So I didn't even and I didn't even remember a single phone number in my head. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
because you want to call. Yeah, you need to call somebody to
I needed,
help you out.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
I'm
couldn't remember a phone number.
I couldn't remember a phone number, and I'm just
Oh,
stuck for days just trying to remember a phone number, and my heart is just 1 to 15, 1 to 15. Even 1 year when you're 18, I mean, is a
oh,
lot.
that's a lifetime.
As a
That's a
lifetime,
lifetime.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, even if I get just 1 year, and I'm
So
just,
so 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 during this, let me just back you up a little bit. So during this time, you're sitting in a county lockup.
yes, sir, in a
Talk
huge
about that,
Mar-
because very
Marion County
often,
jail, and it
oh,
was
Marion County, it's notorious.
yeah,
Okay.
and
Tell me a little bit about your experiences there, if you would, please.
first when I walk into the pod, the huge D pod, and it's a felony case. I'm sitting with the felony
You're sitting
guys.
with felons. Yeah,
Yeah, people
yeah.
waiting to go to prison. You know, anywhere from murder and all that stuff. And I'm just, as soon as I get in there, I got my basket, I got my mattress, and
Mm.
this guy comes up and he just takes my paperwork out of my basket, and and I'm like, this is prison. I'm not going to be that guy.
No time to be a hero.
So no, I just dropped my basket, and I'm like, what?
Oh yeah, so that's what you meant. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
actually, I was like, no,
So you needed to mark your territory right away because you didn't want
no.
yeah, you just wanted to let them know probably that
Yeah,
you
I didn't know how to handle the situation, so I was
okay.
probably a little bit too much, but
Okay.
it did kind of help me out because they're like, oh, if we're gonna mess with that guy, we're gonna have to fight.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
kind of gave me a little bit of respect, just left me be a little bit. Then I found actually some really nice people that just so I started hanging out, playing cards, spades. And they're trying to explain my case to me and helping me out, and
So you found your little niche, if you will,
yeah,
your little group that you could relate to and
yeah,
who had your back and
yeah. Because we were
I would
I think we were over, I think we were like 100 and something people in that pod. It was a huge
okay.
pod.
Yeah, it's like a small town, you know.
Yeah. So, and everybody just lives and sleeps and everything in this. So I've been arrested in different states too, but then it's different. You got the 4 room cells and stuff like that,
Right.
and then the pod
Right.
outside. But this was just an open pod.
So let me tell me more about this. When this guy he snatches your paperwork and you drop all your stuff and you kind of
Yeah, I
knuckle up.
snatched it
What
back.
what? What happened then?
No, I snatched it back real quick, and I'm like, "What do you want?" And then he looks at me, and he's like, and then he snatches it back again. So I snatched it back, and I shoved him back real hard, and then he's like, "Hey, chill, chill, man. I'm just trying to help you out." He's kind of
Okay.
switched his attitude right away, you know.
Okay.
He was
Yeah.
probably just trying. He was probably going to help me out, but doing it in a dominant
Might have
way.
been test. Yeah, might have been testing you. Probably, definitely was testing you. I would
Definitely
say.
was testing me,
Yeah.
and so me and him actually became friends.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he was like, "Where do I have this guy?" But I've seen those people that was the push arounds. I mean, as soon as they got their lunch trays, people came and took what they wanted from it,
Oh
and
man.
I just looked over and I'm like, "Oh, feel bad for that guy," you know. But I can't show weakness, you know. I can't help out. I can't.
Yeah, I mean that's like down on a primal animal level.
Yeah,
You've got to show your strength. You cannot be dominated.
no,
Otherwise, it's the beginning of the end. I would imagine.
yeah. And then people get into because most of them have a drug problem, you know,
Yeah,
and of course they're drugs in jail. And
sure.
oh, they're desperate to get their drugs, and oh, I'll have my family pay and stuff like that. And every single night, somebody got beat the crap out of. And you had to lay there and listen to it and stuff like that.
Crazy.
And so I was like on edge the whole time. Was just
Well, you're in fight modus constantly. I would imagine
yeah,
because you probably never know when it's going to come. Let me ask you about the guys who are a little bit more the guys who are dominated.
yeah.
The softer guys. Can you tell me about your observations when it comes to them? How did they manage? How did they, were they loners or did they have their own grouping of the weaker
No,
inmates?
it's almost like each group had their own weak one. You know,
Okay.
so there's like they found the guys that was less crappier to them, you know, and
Right,
but
right.
it still let them dominate. You know, it's almost like each group had their own weakest link,
Okay.
and then they just
Okay.
leave each other's weakest link alone. You know, this is our our level. Yeah,
Right.
we'll defend this guy, and
Yeah.
it's just, but, yeah, it was hard to see because I want to help out. I know what situations that it's hard. It is just, but you have to defend yourself. You have to speak up for your right.
I want to ask you something. I don't judge people, but I'm going to judge you real quick. I
That's all
think
right.
I think that even though you were going through these things, even though you were on the other side of the law, even though you had the drug issues, I'm betting that you were still a good-hearted person.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I'm
I
on.
think you were, and I think that's important to point out. Um, Not just because I want to boost your ego, but because I want
No,
I want the I want the listeners to understand that not everybody that goes to prison is an evil person. Not everybody who
no,
has a drug issue is an evil person.
no,
Not everyone who gets arrested for something is an evil person.
no. Just
Again, we all have our struggles.
yep.
And I can just tell from the vibe I'm getting from you now, you're a good hearted person and you always have been.
Thank you.
You just ran into, you ran into whatever you ran into and you reacted the way you reacted, which led to the circumstances that you found yourself in. So, with that in mind, can we touch on how you felt seeing so much misery?
I
You
broke.
probably saw some people die,
Yeah,
overdose
yeah.
maybe,
I've seen
or
that.
what does that do to you?
It tears you apart. Just you feel helpless. You want to help somebody out. I've sat with people, holding them on their sides and stuff, waiting on the ambulance, and you know, didn't push through and stuff like that. And I've seen people get shot. And I've seen it's a lot of things that comes with it, but it starts with I was never afraid of consequence. I I
Ah,
didn't get consequence. I think that's where my problem became. I was never afraid of anything, thinking, "Oh, I can handle it. I can handle it. I can handle it." But your baggage just get heavier and heavier and heavier for everything you think you can handle. you know.
When you're young, when you were young, you're a teenager, 16, 17, 18 years old, and you're starting to experience some of these negative things in your life. Did you ever have, or did your parents ever confront you and have, a serious heart-to-heart counseling session? Did that ever happen?
Yeah, well, me and my mom, like I had actually had a close relationship with both my parents because I mean, but my mom, I got my heart from my mom, so me and my mom, we could talk about
Most of us have.
everything.
Most of us
Yeah,
have. Yeah.
most of us have, huh? So, but she was more like, just I don't know. She was never a controlling person. I did what I
Mm.
kind of, and I just left out what I didn't want my mom to, because I didn't want my mom to worry. So
And most of us have done that too.
yeah, so I just left out a lot of the details
Yeah.
so I could just keep
Yeah.
going and just living my life. So
So it's not that you had bad contact with your parents or bad influence. It's just
I kind of
the way
spared her for all the details and stuff like that. And she still
right.
hasn't heard all all of the really bad. But
Well, let's keep her away from this podcast then.
yeah, nah, it'd probably be good for her to hear it though.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because now actually she's happy because she knows I'm on the right path and I figured it out.
And and before we're done, we're going to get through the timeline and we're going to get up to your what happened to you in Norway and we're going to get to where you are now
Yeah,
because it really is an incredible story just from you talking with me for a few minutes on the phone the other day and I just got
yeah,
the bullet points of your life and well you heard my reaction. I was like,
yeah,
wow, we have to talk more about this.
yeah,
So you were in Marion County
yeah,
lockup and time is going on. Did
yeah.
you ever, now you said you were always on edge, but did you ever feel a moment of adjustment to where like, okay, this is just how it's going to be. I'm not going to get out of this. I've got to do my time.
Well, not really because it was such a hard adjustment. I actually went into suicidal thought.
Oh,
If if it's anything more than 5 years, I'm not gonna make it. That's what I was thinking.
okay.
I was looking over at those payphones with the cord, just
Yeah, yeah.
and then that's I figured, okay, I just call everybody I love, and then
Now, how long had you been in county lockup at that point?
that's the first week.
Oh,
But
wow.
but then I actually started adjusting. I did adjust a little bit, of course, just learn how to play cards. You start to get into the Bible a little bit with the Bible group,
Yeah.
because there was a lot of good people there too. It was just
Yeah. Again, not everybody there who is there is, I mean, there's some animalistic people in there, absolutely,
uh,
but that is not everybody.
no,
Um, yeah, you and I both know that.
uh,
Um, okay, so a week in and you have suicidal thoughts
yeah,
and they put you on suicide watch.
no, no, they didn't. I didn't say
Oh, they
that.
didn't.
No, I didn't say
Ah,
that to anybody.
okay, you kept that to yourself.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
just so that was like my escape from adjusting.
I see.
I didn't think I could adjust to this, and I was just so. But then the other guys were giving me hope about my case and stuff like that, and oh, it's your first offense and stuff like that. The judge will just give you a slap on the wrists, and I was getting my hope up, and every day I was just hoping for that my name to be called on the intercom. You
that
know,
is time for court. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
time for court or your bail's been posted or just something. But
So
then
did anybody post? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
no. Then actually, my name did show up on the intercom, and I'm like, and the other guys are like, "I told you, man, you're getting out, you're getting out." And then I go down to the correction officer, and then, oh, you got visitation.
Okay.
Ah, man, what are you talking about? I'm getting
Well,
out.
how'd that make you? Let me ask you this. That's interesting. How did that make you feel when they tell you have a visitor? Did you feel happiness? Were you glad that somebody was there, or was it like, oh no, this is going to be embarrassing?
No, I was happy that somebody was
You were happy. Okay. Yeah.
there, but I was more about I thought I was getting out. So it was kind
Right.
of let down.
Right.
No, why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't come to visit me. Just get me
Come and get
out.
me out. Yeah.
So I go into visitation, and even though I did break this guy's jaw, he did get up, and he was a lot bigger than me and older than me, and he whooped my ass, to put it that way.
Oh
So my
God.
face did not.
Oh
I was not
man.
pretty.
Oh.
Uh,
Oh.
my sister comes into visitation, and at first I was scared. I was terrified because I've heard about the guys in the red and white suits and the other
Okay.
pod, and they're
Yeah.
there for sexual charges.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm standing there in this room alone with them, waiting to go in, and it's just three of them, red and whites. I'm like,
Oh.
uh oh,
Oh man.
and
That's a nightmare. That's just a nightmare.
yeah. So I was just like, just holding my breath, just okay, what's going on now? And then I get
Trying to look as opposite
casual.
of vulnerable. Well, yeah, and the opposite of vulnerable as you can be
Yeah,
in a situation like that. Wow.
yeah. I felt like, yeah,
Man.
I felt powerless, you know.
Yeah.
But I've always been like a fighter too, so I'm like, I'm gonna go out if it's so. But no, then I get into the visitation room, and it was fine. They didn't bother me or nothing, you know. But it was
Hmm.
just, you know, all everything you hear and see about prison just builds it up, you know.
Sure. Yeah. You
So
see a few movies, Shawshank Redemption and
yeah,
all this other kind of stuff, and you start to. I mean, it creates a picture in your mind. You,
yeah,
'cause how are you supposed to know what it really is like unless you've been there or
yeah,
you know someone who's
yeah.
been there and they've given you an account about it?
I
So
know. So that's how. But then I get there, and my sister comes in, and she sees me, not the one that was married to the guy that I fought with,
okay.
because he was pressing charges and all sorts of stuff, you know. So it was kind of
Yeah.
like a little
Yeah.
family, you know, thing there. And mother sister, she comes in, she sees me, and she just starts bawling, crying, you know, because she's
Oh.
like, my little brother, he's locked up,
Yeah.
he's beat up, you know.
Oh man,
Yeah.
so sad.
So I'm
That's
just.
just sad.
So I just started, you know, I'm like, no, it's okay, you know, don't worry, I'm fine. And just get me out. She's like, I'll do what I can, I'll do what I can. And but then yeah, time went by, and she did get me out, but it took a
After how
while.
long? After how long?
Almost 6 months,
Wow.
and
As an
because
18-year-old, that is a lifetime. We were saying a year or 5 years is a lifetime at that age. Good
yeah,
Lord, 6 months is at that age.
yeah,
That's a long time.
yeah, it felt like a lifetime.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But it was actually but that was more. But why it felt so long was because if I would have just known it was 6 months or whatever, I would have just okay, and then I would have relaxed. But when you're like
Yeah,
looking at a spectrum from 1 to 15 years, you know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I know it ain't going to be 15 years, but still, you know, you have it. You're afraid to not believe it. You know, it's like your self defense for your. You know, you expect the worst. You know.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, and not knowing, especially at that age, not
Yeah.
knowing how your life is going to pan out.
Yeah.
I mean, that just yeah,
So actually, no, then but because we wanted to spend the money on a lawyer, you know, I'm like,
right,
we should get a good lawyer instead of wasting money on, you know, just bailing me out.
right, right.
And well, actually, I was like, bail me out, get me on a plane, I'll leave, I won't come back.
Fugitive.
But
Did you really think that for a while?
yeah, I did, and
Yeah,
I actually was angry because you know I felt mistreated. You know, I felt like I couldn't trust anything anymore. Even when I got
right.
out, every patrol car I seen, I'm like, they're out to get me. They're gonna get me. I got, I became in that state of mind, and I was so
What led you?
angry.
What led you to that state of mind of not being? I mean,
So I kind of felt
of course,
innocent in the situation. You know,
even though you broke a guy's jaw.
yeah, because I'm like, yo, he pushed me, attacked me. I felt like I was cornered. And
Technically speaking, technically speaking, under the law, the minute he put his hands on you,
yeah,
he was guilty of assault and battery.
yeah, but he
Technically,
didn't admit to any of that, so that became.
right?
But then when he explained his case, he admitted that I hit him with my left because I'm left-handed, and he admitted to where we were, and we were in a small, hallway, and he said that I came running up from behind and hit him. That I sucker punched
Okay.
him, basically,
Right.
and that wasn't the truth, and that kind of came out in court, and
I see.
him having a long list of stuff too on his record, then
Okay.
we got it. We didn't get it. We didn't get it. I didn't become. They couldn't drop it to a misdemeanor, but they couldn't let me go without a charge either, because
I see.
they wanted me to. So basically, I got time served, and I had to go to anger management.
Time served in anger management.
Yeah, and I had a
how,
job and stuff. So
how was that anger management class? Was it one on one with a psychologist, or was it in a
it was
classroom setting with
it was
others?
a classroom setting with others, and
Okay.
like a lot of different things, and uh, actually the what do you call it, the psychologist or whatever, she
Hmm.
she was she had a lot of problems herself. She was always talking about her
I shouldn't
situation.
laugh, but I shouldn't laugh, but it's typical. Oh
Yeah, like, oh,
gosh.
I was abused, da-da-da, and she would cry almost every session about her own
Oh,
situations. And then I just, okay, every Tuesday I had to show up there after work.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I just went
yeah.
there and it didn't really help my anger at all. Not at that
Yeah,
point.
that was my next question was did it help? But no, it
No,
didn't.
actually, the prison helped, or the jail. I mean, just getting consequences. Oh, if I don't act right, there's consequences to pay. I got a little bit of a, but I became too terrified, actually, because
How
it,
so?
I don't know. I was just like, I didn't feel safe anymore. I knew how quick my life could change, and
Okay.
it was really scary. It was like I didn't have any foundation anymore,
But were you scared because you didn't have the ability to control your own actions, or were you scared because you were afraid of outside sources, somebody provoking you or attacking you or the police coming into your life?
yeah, just
Which aspect of that was your most fear?
no. I mean, I could
Uh,
control my anger and stuff like that. I was actually just a really nice guy, and I had a temper, that I did, but it wasn't like
yeah,
my. I would never attack somebody for no reason and stuff like that. And but just
no,
things escalate so fast, and sometimes you just have to, especially with that lifestyle that I was in too. You
sure,
never
sure.
know when you're gonna. So
Did you ever feel that you had to prove yourself, among your peers, your friends, in in that group of friends that you had?
uh,
Could that maybe be part of why you had a short temper? Because I got to show my boys I'm not going to take any shit. Was
no,
it anything
not
like that?
really. I
No,
was that kind.
no.
I was even back here. I was in Norway. I was actually the same. Just didn't really learn how to control my emotions.
Okay,
Once I started getting emotional and stuff like that, I would fight.
that's when things got yeah.
Uh,
Wow, interesting.
so, but it's just young and just didn't have any foundation. Just being ripped up from the safe place in Norway down to Haines City High, and it's just my life would just change so suddenly. I didn't feel like, and then from that into jail, and just didn't feel like nothing was, no
You
matter
know,
what I did, anything could happen.
just trying to think. I'm no psychologist, but just thinking on your life's path from Norway to a place like that part of Florida, it's almost like I don't want to say it's asking for trouble, but it is a big change.
Yeah.
What part of Norway did you come from?
And the buck.
And the book.
Yeah,
Okay.
right outside of Oslo.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
small
And so
town.
so yeah. So to go from that to a an area with a significant hip hop culture, drugs, and this, that, and the other is a big change. And I talk with my wife about this all the time. We have two kids here who are coming up on that age where they can do an exchange student program and go to high school in the States.
Yeah,
And I would love for them to have that
yeah,
experience, but I would almost have to demand that they would go to to a small rural town out in the country somewhere like where I grew up.
Yeah, because that's a huge difference.
It,
I've lived
it
in
is.
different states too, and it's a big
I
difference.
think because I think if my kids, I think if a lot of Norwegian kids were to go from, out some little village outside of
Yeah,
Oslo or Drammen or something like that, and then all of a sudden they're even in the suburbs of a place like New York or
yeah,
Chicago or Los Angeles, even in the suburbs, I get the feeling that my kids would just get eaten alive.
yeah,
There's things out there. We're talking about what 15 whatever years ago in your case, but
yeah,
now especially there are things there that these Norwegian teenagers just don't have a clue about.
yeah. Uh,
They watch MTV and they watch movies and they listen to music and stuff, but they're not getting a view of what things really are like in some of these
yeah.
these these places.
Actually, like I get offended a lot because Norwegians kind of
Yes.
develop this mental picture of what Americans and America is. It's not right at all. I mean,
I could do a whole podcast episode on how
yeah.
Norwegians perceive Americans. I don't think I told you this, but I'm also a stand-up comic, and a
Oh,
big
really?
part of my routine is me making fun of Norwegians and their perceptions on what Americans, especially Black Americans,
Yeah.
what they think we're all about. Um, so shout out to all my Norwegian friends. All my friends are Norwegian these days, and I've been here so long, but
Yeah.
I have to make fun of them.
Well,
But in all seriousness, it is a big difference. So I was wondering if I don't think you had any inherent tendency to find trouble. It probably is just that you never got you were never prepared for what you were going to see there. You were never prepared for the challenges,
nah. But
to where you would be strong enough or wise enough to make choices that would have led you down a different path.
yeah, nah. You got it right on.
I'm not a psycho
No, but
Yeah, I'm
you're
not a
right on.
psychologist, but I think yeah,
You're right
I
on.
think so. I think so.
So, but and then again, I was one of those people that just didn't really. I was in the moment type guy. I was always just living the moment, never thinking about tomorrow and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
but you know what? Who does at that age?
Yeah,
I
that's
was
true.
very much an in the moment person and not thinking about my future up until I was around 23,
Yeah,
24. You know,
yeah,
you just don't have that concept of, you don't have a full concept of consequences.
yeah.
You don't have a full concept of responsibility. And I don't think that is a unusual state of mind to be in at that age, around 18, 19 years old. It's not unusual at all.
No. Well, then right after I got out, I met a girl. Her name was Brittany, the one that contacted you actually about.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
and we started dating and stuff, and hit it off, and then life became good because I put all my focus into her, and that's what
Okay.
kind of kept me out of trouble, and just
Right.
I kind of got out of all the stuff that I was in and doing and stuff, and more and more.
Love will do that.
Love will
Love
do
will do
that,
that.
and that's what
Love
I
will
needed.
change
I
your
needed
life.
that right then and there.
Yeah.
But I still had my
Shout out to Brittany.
yeah, I still had my pot smoking problem though. So, and I ended up actually getting arrested again for a little marijuana charge. But then I posted bail right away, and there was nothing, no big deal. But I got yeah,
Just a
just a
possession
smaller,
charge.
less than 20 grams.
Okay.
So and then but I went to court and I got put on probation, and then 6 months probation, and then I failed my probation.
You
Af-
smoked pot again? Is that what it was?
yeah. No,
Oh,
what I did was I bought a cleaning kit because I was so scared for my first one. So I'm like, oh, I'll just buy a cleaning kit. I bought a cleaning kit, and I did that on the
a
first
good
one,
old cleaning kit. Yeah.
and then on my second one, I bought a cheap one, and I was a little bit late, so I didn't do it correctly. So I
Ah,
didn't really smoke, but I was clean on my first one, dirty on my second one, and so that
right.
was a VOP, and then
Well, here's the lesson. Here's the lesson. Don't buy a cheap cleaning kit.
don't do drugs.
There we go.
If,
I was trying to be
or
funny.
if
Yeah.
if you're going to be stupid, at least be smart about it.
If you're going to be stupid, be smart about it. Don't try to save money on a cleaning
No.
kit, kids.
Yeah, because
Oh,
but then I end up going to court for this, and they're like, "Oh, no, I didn't go to court. The probation officers." I'm like, "Okay, I'm getting arrested. I'm waiting for the cops."
and then they could have sent you back to serve out the rest of
That's what
your,
they would do. That's what they were gonna do.
yeah.
But the jails were full, so they're like, "Just
Ah,
go home. Yeah, just check online. Da, da, da. When your warrant pops up, a couple days later, the police officer will show up at your house to pick you up."
no ankle bracelet or anything.
No, nothing.
They just sent you
They
home.
just sent me
Okay.
home, so I'm like, okay. And my mom had recently moved to Kentucky, the state of Kentucky,
Oh
and
yeah, what city?
uh, what, I'm trying to remember the name. Glasgow,
Ah,
Glasgow,
okay.
Glasgow
Okay.
County. I don't remember what the name of the city was.
Okay. I've got people in Harlan County,
Oh
Harlan,
yeah,
Kentucky.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I
Okay.
moved up there, and actually then I'm like, look, and then I searched up the misdemeanor, it's a state thing. Da, 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 da. Kentucky is a welfare state, you know. So I'm like, okay, I got an escape. So I
Ah.
moved up there, and Brittany followed me up there, and we everything was actually good. I just said screw Florida, and
Oh,
yeah,
so
I
you
never did.
didn't.
I still have a bench warrant in Florida.
Oh man. Well, no Disney World for you.
No, not yet, but I'm going to take care of it though. I know that with all the marijuana charges, the
Yes.
legalcy of it and stuff like
Yeah.
that, they'll give me a new court date.
Yes, they will. Yeah.
So and then they'll drop the charges because I
Yeah.
am clean. I have changed my life, and I can show
Yes.
that. But I just
Absolutely.
have to head down there to do it. I get a
Yeah.
walkthrough is what they call it. Already have my
Go,
bit.
go to Disney World first, just
Yeah,
in case.
just in
Yeah.
case. Yeah. Well, I'll probably get arrested at the airport. So I'll have to have a lawyer set a court date and then have my bail already set before I go.
Right. Right.
But I'll take care of that.
So you go to Kentucky. Now, I know that Kentucky is crystal meth
Yeah.
capital. Well, not the capital, but it's one of the biggest places for meth.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not wrong.
No, not
So
at all. That was
were there any issues with staying clean and staying out of trouble when you went to Kentucky then?
no, not really, because I kind of stayed away from people. I was addicted to marijuana, so I was trying to get that, but I was able to stay away from all meth and all that stuff, and
Good. Good.
kind of kept to my girlfriend. Just stayed with her,
Yeah.
and
So there were no addictions other than to the
yeah,
marijuana.
none.
Good.
So,
Good.
but my addiction was so strong to it. I mean, to marijuana, it's just I had to have it to be able to relax, and
Can you talk about that a little bit? I'm genuinely curious. I've never smoked. I almost said I don't know anyone who smokes, but I do. But I just don't know. I just don't know anything about what marijuana. Well, I know what it does to a person, but I've heard very few firsthand
yeah.
accounts.
Like to me, it was like a way that I could because I had a lot of energy and I was like an energized person, and I would always do before I thought, you know. And when
I
I
see.
smoked, I would start thinking before I start doing. So in one way, it
Okay.
was like a little bit good, good for me because I actually learned how to think a little bit. But then I
Right.
realized that I just after many years that now I'm just thinking and not doing anything. I just became an overthinker.
I see. I
So I
see.
wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But
Have you ever gotten a diagnosis ADHD or ADD?
I should have probably. But parents never followed up, and I always
Again, I'm not a doctor, but I'm
yeah.
very well read in things, and it sounds like
That's
that could be something there.
there. Yeah, I did have ADHD. I kind of grew out of it a little bit though. just at least lost
Well, you
the
can learn
H.
to control it.
You-
Yeah, yeah. Just people can learn to control it. People can learn to, well, not control it, but people can learn to live with it,
yeah,
to where the negative effects on your life can be diminished.
yeah,
So it sounds like that might be what you did.
yeah. That's what I kind of did. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
actually just learned to use it to the positive. I became a
Yes.
construction worker. I've always been a really good worker,
Yeah.
and got my energy out there, and just try to be productive. With
Yeah.
myself, and try to do a good job. I want to. Like, she became, Brittany became pregnant, and I was gonna be a dad. And I was just working, working, working,
Hmm.
trying to, um,
A new focus.
yeah,
You had a
I had to
focus.
focus. Really, that's what it was. I got something that I wanted to do and motivation to do it. And
Yeah.
so I just started working and stuff like that. And we had our kids. He was born. But then we had already moved to Tennessee, Paris, Tennessee.
Paris, Tennessee. I want to say I know where that is.
It's
I also have I have family in Kingsport, Johnson City,
oh,
and I was also a truck driver. When I finished my time in the United States Marines, I was a truck driver for about 18 months,
oh, really?
and I drove all over the place. And that rings a bell, Troy,
It
Tennessee.
is a lot of semis that comes through there
Yeah,
because it's like one of the main, used to
I
be the
think
main
there's a
highways.
big hub. I think there's a big hub for Schneider National there. I
Yeah,
think one of their hubs is there. Yeah, is that
yeah,
right?
that's
Yeah,
right.
it is.
So
Yep, yep.
you know what I'm
There we
talking
go.
about.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it was it's right next to Kentucky. It's Murray, Kentucky. It's like 15 minutes away, so it was right on the state line. But
Gosh, you're bringing back the memories, man.
yeah, I know.
I had a good time. I had a really good time as a truck driver. That was one of the most peaceful times of my life.
Yeah.
Um,
You were a
hold on a
police
second. I'm messing.
officer too, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Kind of. I
Um,
think that's interesting. We're kind of both sides of the law here.
the the way it happened was I went away to college for a while. I had a football scholarship, so I played NCAA football at Ohio University. Um, you still there?
Yeah,
Can you hear
yeah, I
me?
hear you.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, no, I was messing with my screen. I was afraid I cut you off.
Alright.
Hold on a second. Let me see something here. I don't want mine to be the biggest. Let's see. There we go. Now I got you back. Okay, yeah. No, I went away to college for a while, and then there was some pretty significant family issues. Parents were going
Mm.
through divorce and all that. And like an idiot, I thought I could do something or help or whatever.
Yeah.
So I left. I left after the second or during the second year and went back home. And then, of course, didn't change anything. Parents still
Yeah.
got divorced. And then about another year or so after that, I joined the Marines. This was, boy, was I crazy. This was in the lead up to the first Gulf War
Oh yeah.
in 1990. You know, the troops were gathering in Kuwait and getting ready to go in, and that was when everyone thought it was going to be this big, long, drawn out ground war with hundreds of thousands of casualties
Yeah.
and everything. And that's when I joined the Marines.
Yeah.
Um, so I did 4 years active duty in the Marines. Great time.
Yeah. But
Um, that's when I figured out who I was and what I was all about.
yeah.
And then after that, I was kind of like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? I had no idea what I was going to do with myself. So I had seen I had seen a lot of Asia. I was stationed on Okinawa,
Oh
Japan.
really?
So I figured now let me see my own country.
Yeah.
So I used some of my GI Bill money. I got my commercial driver's license and started driving a tractor trailer,
Oh yeah.
and did that for 18 months and just kind of getting my thoughts together, getting myself together. And and then one day I saw that this police force in the Chicago suburbs was hiring. So I signed up to take the test, and I'll be doggone. I was out of, I think it was 300 applicants. I got number one. I scored number one on the test.
No, really.
And then, yeah, and got hired and was a police officer for 7 years
Oh really?
until my wife and I moved here. So 7 years. I was a juvenile officer. I was a gang and narcotics detective. Plain clothes.
Hmm.
Kind of like Training Day, Denzel Washington,
Yeah.
minus the corruption.
Yeah. Right.
So it was that, and that was 7 years of very, like I said, I grew up in rural Ohio,
Oh, yeah.
so I didn't know anything. And this is on the south suburbs of Chicago
Yeah.
where I was working.
Oh,
And man, I thought I was grown up. I thought I knew what life was about after my time in the
yeah.
Marines and truck driving.
Yeah.
It was just a totally new awakening. That was my first exposure to any kind of um, drug scene. Working as a police officer, of course, you come into contact with all that stuff. That's my first time knowing anything about that kind of stuff. So it was like another reawakening, a whole new
Yeah. I
time of growing up and maturing and everything.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Basically the
So,
opposite of me.
well, I'm fortunate in that I was born in Akron, Ohio,
Yeah.
and we moved way out in the outer, into a rural area when I was 7 years old.
Okay.
But I know that that is probably what saved me
Yeah.
because I look at that neighborhood now in Akron where we grew up. I look at Akron in general, and it's just a big steam. Yeah, I don't want to insult anybody, but it's not good there. I was going to say
Yeah.
it's a big steaming pile of garbage. It's not.
I
It's
got you.
it's. I don't want to say that because there's good people. I still have family there,
Yeah.
but oh my gosh, looking at that neighborhood where I was born and where I lived until I was 7 years old, I know that I would have met a lot of challenges that I couldn't even have imagined.
Yeah.
I know it's all about where you are. It's all
Yeah.
about environment.
Environment. That's what defines us a
Absolutely.
little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's pretty much what happened to you. You could have stayed at In the Book
Yeah, and the book, yeah.
and had a different life, but instead you were in Florida and you had that life. It's all about environment.
I'm kind of just happy about my life too, because it made me the person that I am, and
And the person that you are is, how would you say it in 2 sentences?
good-hearted.
Yeah. Agreed.
Thank you,
Agreed.
sir. No, no, and then uh, well, when we had a kid, and my son was born, he had a lot of epilepsy problems,
Oh,
seizures from the time he was
wow.
three,
That's
yeah,
frightening.
3 months old, and we were going through a lot, and I still had my pot problem and stuff like that a little bit, and that turned into, and then a little bit of drinking on the side because I didn't always get my pot,
Right. Right.
and but then I decided, we need to move to Norway because the hospitals and stuff like that and specialists, everything costs a lot of money, and
You and I know, and I've talked about this on my podcast before. If Norway's not perfect, and there's a lot that
yeah,
I'm not satisfied with, and I'm constantly homesick, but the medical situation, the medical services, it's just not something we have to think about.
no,
We just don't have to think
you
about
know,
it.
yeah, don't have to think
It's
about it.
there when we need it, and they do what we need. It doesn't cost us anything. We're not going to go bankrupt
Nope.
because of medical bills. It's a totally different
Yeah,
world.
she can't, like, I tried to explain to Brittany, and she's like, well, how can it be so much better? How can it be so much better? And I'm like, well, I finally, after almost a year, convinced her, let's go, let's try it. So then I got on a plane first and came here, got a job, and it took me about 4 months, but from the time I left the States to the time I got her, had a job, an apartment, and her and my kid here.
And what year was
This
this?
was 2012.
2012. Yeah.
So, and everything was going good. He got the help he needed, and he kind of grew out of it automatically on his
Yeah.
own. But it was a lot of medicines. They're trying different types of
Yeah.
medicines to stop the seizures and stuff like that. And
Now think how that process would have been if you were still there in Kentucky. Think about the
yeah,
cost
well, we were
of that.
traveling all the way to a hospital called Vanderbilt, and yeah,
Vanderbilt.
it's a
Yeah.
special, like a hospital
Yes.
special, for children and stuff like that, and just those bills, they were,
Wow. I can only imagine. You had the things that you had to struggle with as it was. But if you would have had to worry about medical bills on top of that,
And
oh man, what a turn for the worse
yeah,
that would have been.
yeah, I know. So that was just kind of that's what got us.
Would you say that your decision to come to Norway would rank in your top five best decisions of your life?
Yeah, I think so. Even though I
Yeah.
was a lot of things happened after that, after the
Yeah,
fact.
we're gonna get to that.
Yeah,
Yeah. We're
so
gonna get to that.
kind of blamed
So
blamed it on that decision, but
so you come here with your son and with Brittany, and wow, that could be a whole interesting discussion with her about her. I love talking with Americans
yeah.
who have come to Norway. Everybody has their own individual story. But so you guys get here, and was it, you're off and running and everything is
Well,
good to go from the start, or
kinda yes and no, because I already knew the whole town. Of course, I went back to my hometown and
yeah.
I introduced her and stuff like that. But people Norwegians hate speaking English. So especially with me
Oh, I
there.
didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. How was
So she had
okay,
a,
yeah.
I felt real bad for her because she had like a real culture shock.
Yes. Yes.
And I couldn't really see it. So she kind of went into a depression a little bit, and she didn't get to, and then she became pregnant again. And so she
Yeah.
didn't get to start Norwegian school and stuff like that, and putting
Ah,
her roots in right away. And that
right.
kind of put her
Yeah.
on the back burner a little bit. And I was just working constantly because, me having her here, I had to support
You
it.
gotta step it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
What kind of job did you start off with?
construction. I've always worked
Construction.
construction.
Okay. Okay.
And I,
It's a great living.
yeah, here you actually get paid a lot. Down in
Yes. Yeah.
down south in the United States,
Totally different
yeah,
story.
you
Yeah.
don't get paid much at all. So, it's nice. I'm starting to feel secure with my job. I'm starting to feel like I have control, that I'm safe. And, we have a daughter and everything's going good, but then she develops epilepsy problems. But this
Wow.
time it was a lot
That doesn't
worse.
happen very often. That doesn't happen very often.
No, because
Two kids with
yeah,
epilepsy.
and no
Wow.
reason for it. It wasn't
Yeah.
normally epilepsy is a byproduct of a brain damage or a tumor or something, that's wrong. And but this was just showing up from nowhere. They couldn't really locate it and stuff like that. So we were going to specialists, and first we had to go through like just so much just trying to even get to the specialists.
Sure.
And she was having anywhere from 5 to 15 seizures a day
Oh, that poor
from the time
child.
she was 3 months old. And,
That poor child. Oh my
and
God. Wow.
I couldn't handle it. Really, I acted like I was trying to handle it because she was about to break, and I had to be strong
Yeah.
for her.
Yes.
I wasn't really strong at all. I was at my breaking point too. And then I started drinking, and
Uh,
you know, the problem became worse, and the child services, they came into the picture a little bit because they found out about it. And
yeah.
so, and I had to quit my pot because I had to go on urine tests and stuff like that. And I still had my job and everything, but our relationship was being kind of ripped apart from the child services. They had to
I
separate
see.
us and stuff like that. She had to, and I couldn't handle that. So instead of stepping up, I started messing up,
I see.
and
Yeah.
I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is. And she kind of started moving on with her life, and I started messing up even more and stuff like that. And that's when I got back into the hip hop scene, because that's where I'm.
Can we call it hip hop
y-
light because it's a little different here in Norway.
Yeah, it ain't the same.
I'm
It
just
ain't the
messing around.
same.
I'm
That
just
was
messing
it.
around. Yeah.
Actually left me with depression because I'm like, what is this? Y'all guys don't know what you're doing.
Left with depression from Norwegian hip hop.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
yeah.
Oh man.
But I've always loved the music, and I've always been writing my own songs and stuff like that, and kind of always had it.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I kind of had a
Huh.
little dream to get
Cool.
into it, but just being a father and stuff like that, that always came first. And
Yeah, you can still do it, man.
I'm
I
working
got
on.
two kids here. I still do music. I make
Oh,
music.
really?
I got stuff out there. I'm a songwriter for a whole bunch of different artists and bands. I've got 4 singles out, solo
Not
singles.
really.
2 kids.
I'll have to
2
check
kids.
into that. Listen to me. That's
I'll send you a
yeah.
link. I'll
Do
send you a
that.
link.
Do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now and then, well, then the drugs didn't start getting bad again. I started on
Yeah.
heavy drugs and doing everything that basically anybody. Because I felt like I was broke. I was broken inside, and I didn't want
Yeah.
to hang out with people that wasn't broke. Because that just showed me how far my life felt. I couldn't. I lost my job. Or actually, I didn't lose it. I just didn't show up to it anymore.
Okay.
And
So you were at rock bottom
rock
then.
bottom, and I was just basically just trying to survive every day, just from my own emotions and stuff like that, and ended up, I ended up, getting caught up in stupid stuff, just stupid charges, and just kept getting arrested and doing, 4 weeks here, 4 weeks there, and stuff like that, and just the first year, and then after that, I went. This was about 2016, and then 2016, I got arrested for. I had like 28 different charges, just
Oh God.
gathered up. So I ended up, but I only did 6 months that time. But I did six.
And where was
Oslo,
where
Oslo,
in
yeah,
Oslo?
Oslo,
Oslo
Oslo
Fengsel. Yeah.
Fengsel, and it was
Yeah.
23-hour lockdown. You were out of your cell 1 hour a day, and they're all Muslims. No offense against Muslims, but it's just
I was just gonna say right away. I started thinking about the inner culture
yeah,
of that prison
yeah,
compared to the inner culture there in Marion County,
yeah,
and both of them have their bad elements. Both of them have their softer
yeah,
elements. Both of them have their different degrees of how easily or how difficult you can adjust.
yeah,
But that prison there, I would imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine that you felt even more out of
yeah.
place
I did.
in Oslo
I,
than you did
yeah.
in the prison in Marion County,
Yeah,
right?
I did. Because I mean,
Yeah,
the culture's
yeah,
so different. Americans aren't
yeah,
that different. I mean, but
yeah.
I kind of felt more like home back in the
Yeah, I
States.
know. Yeah, I totally get it. And that's not, and again, just like you said, this isn't saying anything bad against Muslims or people
No,
from the Middle East. It's just the makeup of that prison is what it
yeah.
is.
So,
In Oslo, it is what it
but
is.
luckily, I was a lot more mature at that time, so adjusting wasn't hard at all.
Can you walk me through kind of like you did with your first day, your first experience walking into Marin County? What was it like walking in as someone who's incarcerated in Oslo prison?
You mean in Oslo? Oh
The,
yeah,
the,
walk you through
yeah, the
Oslo.
whole
Yeah, no, I just
yeah the whole experience of it.
so first I was in the holding cell, the glattcelle.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so it was just a relief to get out from there, get into a cell where you have a television and stuff like that. So I mean, it's a lot better when it comes to that kind of stuff. You can kind of be by
yeah.
yourself a little bit. You have a TV, you have a little mini fridge, and you get food 3 times a day. And so at first I was just relaxing, but I didn't really have any problems with any of that. It was just my heart was broke. So I just
Okay.
had to deal with myself at that point.
So your heart was broke when you say that. What does that? What exactly does that mean? That can mean a lot of different things.
I was just so
Um,
depressed about how my life ended up. I felt
okay.
that I lost the girl I loved. I uh, lost connection with my kids. My kids mean everything to me, and
Yeah.
I just felt like I really felt like I failed everything.
Suicidal thoughts at that point.
Yeah and no, because I was a father. I didn't think that wasn't right, but
Right. Right. But still very down
yeah, no, it's just
was that probably the most depressed you had ever
yeah,
been at that
yeah,
point? Yeah.
no doubt. Actually,
I can see it on your face. I hear it in your
yeah.
voice that you're kind of reliving that
Yeah,
feeling.
that was the hard
It's
part. Not the jail, not the people, not nothing. It was just where I was you know, in my
yeah.
life, and but it was really, I mean, but it was healthy for me because I got away from the drugs. I got away from running from myself all the time and just actually had to sit down and deal with it for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I did 6 months and that was fine. Actually had a lot of fun too. Learned to deal with myself, learned to be alone, learned to just enjoy TV, and the small things. And but when I got out, of course, hoped, I had that hope that I would get her back and stuff like that. And every
Yeah. Let me ask you about that. What had happened during the time well, how long were you in Oslo
six
prison?
months.
6 months. Okay. And during that time, what happened with your relationship with Brittany?
No, it falls even further apart. And she came to visit me. She
Okay.
brought the kids to visit me, and she's moved on. It's been a year. She's dating somebody else and stuff like that. And it's just, and I'm just, she's like, but with all reason, I was not getting my life together. I was not doing the things I was supposed to be doing. I was doing, quite the opposite. And so it was just like when I got out, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do right now. I'm going to do, but I was just trying to take shortcuts to get her back,
Yeah.
and
I
I
see.
just wasted all the,
That's a good way of putting it. Shortcuts. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
shortcut,
Yeah.
just trying to act the part of being healed, and being okay.
Now, on the timeline of all of this, what year was this now when you've gotten out of Oslo
This was
prison?
probably in the beginning of 2017, 2017. Yeah,
2017. Okay, 4 years ago.
yeah, 4 years ago. And then,
Now, where were you spiritually at that point? Because going back to your time in Marion County, you had started exploring the Bible.
yeah,
You started getting
I kind of fell back out
somewhat of
of
a
it.
religious foundation. You fell out
Yeah,
of
I
it.
fell out
Okay.
of it. I've always believed in God, and but
Yeah.
I didn't really have any education in it. I mean, you have to get the
No.
education in it to really get it into your heart,
Yeah.
and
Well, I think the scary thing is when people don't get the education
yeah,
and they just call themselves religious, and then
yeah,
they corrupt all things religious. They
yes,
start judging people. They start, yeah,
yeah.
all that
You
kind of stuff, and
need
it's
the
because they
education.
haven't. You got to read the
Got
book.
to read the book. I mean, it'll change your life.
Yes,
So,
totally
but I'll
agree.
get
Yeah,
into that. But
yeah, we'll talk about
and
that.
then actually, I couldn't get my life together, and just trying to run with other because I couldn't keep a job. I didn't I couldn't I wanted to go back to my old job, but knew that if I'm going to go back, I have to be ready. Because I had a really good
Yeah,
relationship with them and stuff like that, and they knew my situation, and I wasn't ready to go back because she had moved down to Fredrikstad, and my basically was working in Oslo, and so I was just caught in between lines. I didn't know what to do,
yeah, yeah.
and I just started instead of I just running to the next fix and just not being
Right.
alone, being with people, doing
Yeah,
stupid shit. And
yeah,
then I ended up
yeah.
some time went by, like almost 6 months, just running around, and then I ended up gathering up a whole bunch of other new charges, and then I got
What kind of charges?
grand theft,
What was it you stole?
car, grand theft
A
auto,
car. Okay.
yeah. And I didn't steal the car. Basically, I lent it from the guy that stole it, but I got
Okay.
caught with it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was stolen actually. And and then I got caught with possession, and
Any more
yeah,
violence? Any more
a little
assaults?
bit,
Or yeah,
because they're just getting into fights and stuff within the drugs and stuff, and
yeah, yeah.
being a fighter and being depressed and angry, people get,
That's a bad
yeah,
combination.
people became afraid of me, so
Yeah,
a little bit,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so even though I was a really nice guy and all that stuff, like, but people pushed it too far, and then
yeah,
got to
yeah.
see the,
The demon came out.
yeah,
Yeah,
demon came out basically, yeah. And
yeah.
so I got what's called restraining order against two people I knew, two different guys, and then we would start hanging out again, and then I would get angry again, or something and happen, and then I would
Oh,
get, you know,
so it's just a never-ending
yeah,
cycle of just building up more charges against
yeah.
yourself.
So, but then I actually ended up getting arrested again, and they put me straight into prison, high security, because it's
Oslo again?
no, this time they put me in Holden.
Holden thinks so,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I gotta just say that that was the best thing that happened to me,
How so?
because I got 8 months, so I knew I was gonna do 8 months. The prison there is really nice. You live like a normal human being.
It is. It's a nice drive out there too.
Yeah.
I've been out there. Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I mean, I got to go to work every day. I got to be sober. I got everybody around me was sober.
See, and that matches up with what I hear. They say that if you're a person who really wants to change their life, but you know, of course, you have to be incarcerated, but you want to change your life as
Mm,
well. People say that Halden is the place where you should
yeah,
go if you can.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
is that
that is
right?
right. That is was I
Yeah.
actually got to go to school for music technology, learn how to mix music and
Okay.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I did that once a week, and that's actually when I kind of got back into my religious, not my religion, but into Christianity, and because well, my father passed while I was locked
Okay.
up. I got the news, and uh,
That must have been
yeah,
hard.
it was hard.
It's hard to lose a parent, I would
Yeah,
imagine, but it's doubly hard when you're losing them when you're in that
yeah, and
circumstance.
then by this time he had moved to the States, so it wasn't no funeral. I couldn't be a part of any of it, and I barely got to talk to my family about it and stuff like that. And it was I decided to go to church service, because that's to light a candle for my dad and say goodbye and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I've had spoken to my psych. I actually went to I got counseling when I was in jail too, because I really wanted to
Okay.
get out of the drugs, and I wanted to
Yeah.
learn to become a master of my own mind, control my
Yes.
feelings and stuff like that. So
Master of your own mind. I just like the way that
yeah,
sounds.
just
Yeah.
becoming in control again, and
Yeah.
I
Sure.
had spoken to
Sure.
them about, I want to. What did I like about what did I like so much about substance is I felt like I was in control when I was having it. So I wanted to then I learn, if I'm going to be able to live without, I got to be in control without. So if you get
Yeah.
any challenges or something like that, I should take every challenge that comes my way. I wanted to
Right.
evolve. I want to become,
Yeah.
so and then when I was in the church in Holden Fingshu, the the priest comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, would you mind reading uh the Juleevangelia, the gospel, the
Yeah.
Christmas gospel, and in English?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then he says, "In front of the prison on Christmas Eve."
Ah.
And then I'm like, "No." And then I remembered, okay, take every challenge you're given, All right. So I said, "Sure." And then comes, I was so nervous, and
Oh, I can imagine.
you got 250 criminals and about 100 staff, and and I wasn't familiar with the Bible language or nothing, so even though I can speak English, it's a different,
Sure. It's a different
yeah.
way of writing it. It's a different expression.
So
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, but and I was never a good reader either, but I just remember praying about it. I caught myself praying. I'm like, God, you need to help me out now, you know. So, and I go up there, and because they read it in every language that they can on
I
Christmas,
see.
so they
I
ask
see.
everybody that's from
Of
Poland
course.
or from
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so then I got the American part, and then but the embarrassing thing was because I had such a good time there, everybody knew who I was. I was in charge of the
Okay.
clothes that you had to come to me to get your uniform for work. So I got to introduce everybody, and I was, I was that.
That's a great way to start meeting people
Yeah,
and networking within the
yeah,
prison
that was
system. Absolutely.
everybody. When I go up there, everybody's clapping and stuff like that. And my language, everybody understands. So it
Yeah,
wasn't like if
yeah,
I messed up,
yeah.
everybody knew it, not just the Polish guys or So I get up there and this paper is shaking so bad. I'm shaking, and I start reading, and then I'm like messed up a little bit, and then I just stop, and then I just take a breath.
Deep
Yeah, I
breath,
took a
deep
deep breath,
breath.
and
Yeah.
it was so quiet. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. You know, everybody was like, "Uh oh, he messed up. He froze." And then I just read it, and it went
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good. I mean,
You
I
made it
made it
through.
through, and just it was such a good feeling, just mastering something. And
Well, that's why it's such a good thing. I like you've said it a couple times, three times now. Take every challenge that you're
yeah,
given, and that's why that's such a good thing because to me, there's no stress, there's no fear in facing a challenge. I thrive on
yeah,
challenges because it's an opportunity for growth.
yes,
I'm a competitive power lifter,
uh,
so I put a lot of things in and try to match it up with like a training
yeah,
reference
it,
when it comes to powerlifting. And the harder things are, the heavier things are,
yeah,
the more you're going to grow, the more you're going to get strong. So I see a parallel in all
yeah. I
this.
mean, you
You
have
can't avoid
to.
a challenge, otherwise you're not going to grow.
Yep, that's so true. So I
Yeah,
mean, I grew a lot just in that 8 months there, just in learning to get
yeah,
to know everybody, being accepted. I was like not one of the more popular people there in a good way.
yeah.
Just really a
Yeah.
liked guy. I mean, even when I was getting released, this was in February 2019, and I kind of didn't even want to go. I was sad, because
Really?
I knew
Yeah,
my life outside was miserable, but
yeah,
I was motivated. I'm like, I'm gonna do this, and
yeah.
I,
But I can understand the fear
yeah,
of actually leaving this environment that has given you a period of growth.
yeah,
At the same time as you get to rest and you get to rethink
yeah,
things, it's also been a period of growth. And now all of a sudden you've got to
yeah,
leave and go back out there. That's where
yeah.
all the trouble
So I
has been
became
out
afraid
there.
and stuff like that. But I was
Yeah,
motivated because I was, I really want to get my life together. But then when I got my phone back, I hadn't seen my phone for 8 months, and just all these messages, condolences
yeah,
about my dad and stuff like that. All these
yeah.
feelings just started. So I panicked and ran straight to the liquor store, and
Oh
messed
no.
up the first day. I
Wow.
messed up, and got right back into all of it slowly but surely, and uh, got into some real bad people, really bad. So,
Yeah.
but my mom ended up coming actually to Norway because she my dad's birthday was coming up, and they had been divorced since
Okay.
I was basically 16. And
Yeah.
but I mean, they still had a strong relationship. I mean, bond. They were married for 20 something years and stuff like that. So it did break her heart when he passed away, and she came to Norway to basically be with me, but at the same time, she needed closure. So
Sure.
we were together
Understand.
for
Yeah.
9 days, and in those 9 days, everything was just perfect. I hadn't seen my mom in 7 years,
Yeah.
you know, and I got to
Yeah.
have my kids alone. They spent the night with me because my mom was
Oh
there,
man.
and everything was just
Yeah.
so great. And we went to this. We had a candle lighting. 60 kids. My dad was going to turn 60, and we invited his family and stuff like that. And we at the water ski
Mhm.
center that he kind of started or got going and stuff. And it was really nice. But the next day, I had to drive her back to Gardermoen,
Yeah. To
to the
the airport.
airport,
Yeah.
and I just broke down because I just had forgotten what my
Oh
life
man.
actually was like in those nine
Yeah.
days, and then I went back to
Yeah.
it, and I felt I fell all the way back down again. But what's really good about that, I was so tired mentally, and all this stuff was happening, and actually seen a police car, I was driving and seen a police car, and I just waved to the police officers, and as they're passing, and then I just pull in the e-brake and into the parking
Yeah.
lot behind them. So they turned around, and I just jumped out of my car. I ran to their back of their car, and a guy jumped into their car, and I'm like, I don't want it. I don't want this
Wow.
anymore. Take take me to
Wow.
jail. Take me to
Wow.
jail. I want to go back.
Wow.
And
So what happened? What'd
they
they
took me
do?
to the hospital. They took me to go see a doctor. And
Yeah.
then that's when the doctor said, okay, well, you can go to the psychiatric or whatever it's called, and
Psychiatric
yeah,
unit, yeah.
and I went there, and they wanted to kick me out right away, because it was
Really? Why is that? Which place did you go
uh
to?
in Kolnes sykehus, psykiatrisk avdeling,
Okay.
and
And
because that was
they didn't think you needed to be there. I mean, you were literally crying out for
yeah,
help.
I know.
Literally.
I mean, and they're like, no, because you're all, you just have issues you have to deal with. And I'm like, well, I have but I told them, I'm like, no, you can't put me back out there. I'm going to end up getting myself killed on accident or something. I've already had
Yeah.
several overdoses. I was in coma for 4 days.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? You skipped over that.
Yeah,
When was
that was
this?
between Oslo prison and Halden prison. Yeah.
Wow.
No,
Heroin?
GHB, GOB,
Okay.
and
And how long were you in a
four
coma?
days.
Good God.
So
Wow, man. Well, without even hearing the rest of your story, I can say you are definitely blessed that you were
yeah.
alive. I mean, that right there is
And I
saying
actually tried to kill
something.
myself one time too. And I'm gonna just
Okay. And when was
that
that?
was before I went to Oslo prison. I finally got a car, and I was thinking that was gonna help me out everything, and I just fell into depression, and I was drinking and driving. I'm not proud of it, but it was late at night, and I just all these songs on the radio started coming on, and I just decided I didn't want to do this anymore, and I just let go of the steering wheel and put the pedal to the metal, and
Oh, wow.
140 kilometers an hour ran straight out of off the road and into the woods, into the trees, no
Wow.
seatbelt, no nothing, and I just walked away from that accident. And the car was completely crushed. There was nothing left.
Amazing.
So I kind of felt like that's when I'm starting to think something's not right here. I'm like, under some type of protection, or I felt like that you know,
Well, you definitely have a charmed life. Somebody is definitely looking out from a 4-day coma from GHB, and then this thing,
yeah.
with the
Well, I had a
car.
sister that
Wow,
was
good Lord.
she was saved actually 9 years ago now, because she married a guy that was came from a Christian family, and she was
Who are you talking about?
her name is Michelle. She's the one that's 3 years older than me, and she's
Okay,
my
yeah.
sister, and
Your
she
sister.
was
Okay,
married.
yeah.
She got married to a
Yeah.
guy and his a really nice family. His father's a pastor and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Mm. No, I had just missed who you
Oh
were
yeah.
talking about because I was still thinking about this whole thing with you driving the car like
So
that.
I
Yeah.
had somebody
No, but now
praying.
I'm with you.
She I
Now I
had
got you.
somebody praying for me a lot,
Yes.
a lot,
Yes. And it
and it
helps.
helps, and
Definitely.
basically saved my life,
Definitely.
and so much more. I mean, my kids and everything. Just
So 2019 then was when you got out
yeah,
the second
yeah.
incarceration. So that's only 2
That's
years
only two
ago.
years ago.
Now, at that time in 2019, you were at rock bottom. You said you had hit a new
Yeah, I
bottom.
hit a new bottom, and that's
So how did you get from that
that's where I'm at.
to the man that you are, the man who I'm speaking to right now?
Well, see, that's the miracle. That's
Yeah.
well, because me really wanting to get off the drugs, they transferred me to an avrusning and stuff like that. Even though I was not a
A
deep,
detox for
yeah,
those who are,
detox.
yeah.
Thank you. But I didn't really need detox. I just needed, because I wasn't addicted to anything that was dangerous like that. And but so they wanted. I was only there for 2 weeks, and they're like, well, you don't want any of our medicines. You don't want pills, you don't want that. Because I said no, I don't want none of that.
But that's not always the way to
I
go.
know.
And you said yourself you didn't need, and that's one thing. If I can criticize the Norwegian health system right there, they are very quick to send people to a overdosing, a detox program when they don't necessarily need it. It's more of a psychological
Yeah.
issue. You know, they shouldn't have turned you away when you wanted to go to that
Yeah.
psychiatric ward.
Now they just,
You
yeah,
know
I
what I
know,
mean?
but they turn me. But I mean, detox. It's not really detox. It's just toxic exchange. You're going off of one medicine and they're giving you something else.
Right on to another.
I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
they're gonna take you off heroin. What do they give you? They give you,
Suboxone
yeah,
and things like
yeah.
that.
I
And
mean,
yeah,
those things are not good for you either. You become walking dead.
no. And I know about this. My son, he passed away from a heroin overdose in November of 2019. And the things that he was going through is, and you know, his own words were the detox regimen with all these drugs was almost worse than just being on
Yeah,
heroin.
that's what I've heard too. I've
It's,
seen.
it's,
So, it's
may he rest in peace.
condolences. My
Yeah.
condolences. That's
Thank you. Thank you.
so.
So I can identify with some of these things that you're saying, you know, with the
Yeah,
despair, you know, not getting the proper care, you know, hitting rock bottom not once, not twice, but
yeah,
several times. Thoughts of suicide, actually trying it. I can identify with that. You know,
yeah.
this was my son who was going through all this stuff. Yeah,
So no, but then
I didn't mean to
no, no, no,
interrupt.
no, no, no. It's
So,
just
so, so they try to put you through the detox thing. You're telling them it's not the right way for you.
yeah.
So what
No,
happened?
then they're like, well, you have to leave, and then I'm like, okay, so well, Monday you have to leave, and then but right before Monday, a guy camp comes in and he's telling me about this center, a Christian center, it's called the Evangelia Center, and I've never heard of it or nothing. So
That translates to the evangelical
yeah,
center. I just translate a little bit for
yeah,
my
I
English
appreciate that,
speaking people. Yeah.
and then I'm like, well, and he's like, yeah, they might take you in right away and stuff like that. So I'm like, I'm getting afraid to get my.
Where's that place? Where's that place
They
located?
have in Moss and in Holden,
Okay.
two
Yeah.
big centers, and then they have a couple small
Yeah.
ones around.
Okay.
And I wake up on Monday because I had to wait until Monday to call them, and then I mean I'm going to have a we're basically signing out discussion with the doctor, and I'm signed out, and I'm like, I gotta use your phone, I gotta use those phone. I'm like, so they let me call this other place, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna call me back, and so I have to stay here until they call me back, and they actually did call me back right away, and they're like, or actually, it took a couple hours, so I was able to stretch it out.
But that's still pretty quick
Yeah, it's
though.
still
Yeah.
big, and then they're like, well, we have an open spot for you. You can come straight here.
Wow.
And I ended up, it was far because they have a detox place too. You have to go in through, it's like
I see.
you go there first to basically
Yeah.
spare all the other, so from, and then I went there and I seen these people and I'm like, they're so nice, they're so kind hearted, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, and they believe in Jesus and then stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't care if they're brainwashed. I'd rather be brainwashed than what I am right now. So I just basically I gave up. I gave to escape, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I just
So you just jumped feet first right into
yes,
it then. You saw right away that there's something different with this group of
yeah,
people,
and
and you just
I
jumped right
jumped right
into it.
into it. It
Yeah.
was just love, and I was just tired of everything else, and I was like, I want what they have, I want what they have. So I just jumped. I went all in, and
Yeah.
I picked up
Yeah.
my Bible. I started reading, trying to like understand what they're talking about and stuff like that. And I just basically said yes to Jesus, and step by step, my life has just completely changed over the last almost year and a
That's
half now, 2 years.
that is beautiful, and I'm getting chills up and down my arms right now because you know I don't want to criticize Norway too much, but I will say this. and this is the truth, it is very rare to hear a Norwegian say anything
Yeah,
positive
I know.
about
Yep.
Christianity.
I mean, it's
Now, that's not to say that there's not Norwegian Christians, because they are there, but they're so silent
yeah,
about it. They won't talk about
nah,
it. And talking about it and trying to push it on someone, that's two
yeah,
totally different things. There's nothing wrong with talking
no. I
about it.
mean, that's Bible says
Um,
to go out and
yeah, and there's a
testify.
way to and there's yeah, and there's a way to do that, to where it's not. Yeah, there's a way to there's a right way to do that. But it seems like most Norwegians
Yeah,
are just, they will do everything they can to avoid any
yeah,
discussion
no,
or any mention of
yeah.
Christianity.
Well, I think people are a little bit afraid too because now we have Muslims and stuff like that, and people are kind of maybe a little bit unsure. And then Norwegians are, no offense,
Well, that
different.
uncertainty. Well, that uncertainty, I
Yeah,
think, is a very Norwegian
yeah,
thing. There's a certain type of Norwegian uncertainty, because my way of thinking is, I don't care if you know if you are a practicing Muslim or practicing Hindu or
yeah,
whatever, something other than Christianity, and I see that your religious beliefs have made you into this person who is probably a friend of mine or somebody who I admire, somebody who I look
mm,
up to. I'm going to ask.
yeah,
I welcome a conversation. Okay, what is it about
yeah,
you being Muslim that made you this way? Let's
yeah.
talk.
Me too.
Let's
Me too.
compare.
But I
Um,
think that's the American
that
side.
comes. I think that's very much the
Yeah.
American in me, because Norwegians just don't do that. They just
No,
don't.
they're just avoid conflict or conflict shy in a way, I think. And
I mentioned from time to time, this is not a religious podcast, but I put myself
yeah.
out there. If you listen to my episodes, I'm very I'm an open
Yeah.
book. So I mentioned from time to time that I'm a Christian and that I was raised in the church. And every once in a while, I'll get a message from a Norwegian who'll say, "Oh, it's so good to hear you talk about being a
Yeah.
Christian. I'm a Christian too. It's so good
Oh
to
yeah,
hear."
that's nice.
And I like those
Yeah.
messages. It's uplifting, it's motivating.
Yeah.
But then I look in their life and they never say anything or show any of their Christianity. They
Yeah,
hide it.
there's a lot of I mean,
And that's very Norwegian.
I
That's
know. I
very
mean, I've been
Norwegian.
in this country now since 2012 and through all this drama and stuff like that, and I've never heard of this place.
Yeah, how
Yeah,
about
you know what
that?
I'm saying?
Isn't that
I've
something?
never heard of it. And it was like just a whole new world was just open for me, and I'm like, but I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for it. And but I feel I'm my heart goes. I know what God wants me to do now. He wants me to stretch out. He wants me to open up. And basically, when I was asked to do this podcast, or Brittany asked me about it, and I'm like, sure, I will. Sure, I'll share my story. Maybe it's somebody out there that needs to hear that it is a way out.
And thank you for that. Amen. That is exactly why I do this podcast. Just to tell you real quick, I started this podcast. It was after my son had passed, and I wasn't like feeling sorry for myself, but I was very much aware of the fact that I had a
Yeah,
son who passed away from drug use, and I got to thinking, how can I turn this into something that pushes me forward? Because I
I
was
can,
very depressed, and nothing was. I had my wife and our two kids. I have a daughter back in the States and two grandkids. So I have all of that. My mom is still around. I have my sister. I have my family. But I felt like, me personally, I was at a standstill. I could not get past the
yeah,
depression. So I started this podcast to put words on that
yeah,
feeling, that I'm looking for answers. I'm looking for something to motivate me again. I'm looking to put content out there that someone who might be in my situation or a similar situation, or maybe in the situation
yeah,
you were in up until
yeah,
2019, they can hear me talk with somebody, or sometimes I might do a
yeah,
solo episode and talk about things, and I might be able to say something that will help
yeah.
somebody.
Amen.
Or somebody like you, a guest like you, might say something that will strengthen me in some way. And I tell people it's okay to be egotistical when it comes to your own personal strength, because you have to be in a position of strength if you're going to be able to help
Yeah,
anybody.
you have to. I mean,
So what can I do actively to make myself stronger? And that's what this podcast is all about. What I can do to get stronger and more knowledge, and what can I leave on the table for my listeners or maybe for my guests or things like that. So it's a
yeah,
fellowship for people who might be in need,
yeah,
is what the way I look at it.
fellowship. That's a good way of putting it. I mean,
I think, yes. And I don't think that sounds corny. I've seen people kind of roll their eyes when I say that, but that is
yes,
exactly
it
what it
is. I mean,
is.
and basically, you're
We're-
taking conversations that people have every day. I mean, that can be so important to for people to hear and be a part of. And what you're doing is basically giving people the opportunity to be a part of everyday conversations
and
and just
it's
thoughts.
exactly. And if one person takes in something
Yeah,
from some episode that I did on my podcast, and they can turn that into some sort of
yeah.
motivation, some sort of healing, yeah, then yeah, mission
Mission
accomplished.
accomplished.
Mission
Yeah, I
accomplished.
mean, people needs to know,
So
gets to
again,
learn, because everybody just knows what's inside their own head. But it's
yeah,
you got to introduce people
that's a good way
to
of putting
different
it.
things.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, like I said, the minute you started talking about your story on the telephone the other day, I just knew this is something that people are going to want
Yeah.
to hear.
Uh,
Um, I have to. I keep looking at my mixer over here. I have about 20 minutes left on my
all
sound
right.
card. So let me use these last few minutes. I want to speed up the timeline a little bit. So you're in this facility. You begin studying the Bible. You see that these people have something
Yeah.
about them that you want to be a part of as well. Was there any doubt in your mind at any
Of course,
point,
it was a lot.
or did you
No,
know?
I mean, I had doubted a little. I mean, I did on and off. I mean,
Okay,
but I mean, if I started like talking to old friends and stuff like that, and girls online and stuff like that, and
I'm sure you were probably met with some
yeah,
skepticism.
of course. I mean, then I want to believe and I want to trust, but I mean, I'm embraced and such and been through so much. This world has just camouflaged it, so good, and that's what I
Yeah,
mean. That's basically what the the enemy wants. It's just to camouflage what the truth, and
yeah.
so I mean, going through all these things, of course, I'm doubting and stuff like that, but I'm just seeing and understanding and feeling things that I I know God was looking out for me, and I know
Yeah.
he's shown me so many things in dreams and just really, but I've really gave him my whole life to it.
So it's quite natural to have moments of
Yeah,
doubt. I mean, you can read all through the Bible. There's several, instances where God's followers and even some of Jesus's disciples had their doubts. So that's quite normal.
even John the Baptist.
So
Yeah,
exactly. So what do you do then when you meet that very cynical, outspokenly anti-Christian, anti-religious Norwegian who tells you that you're brainwashed and you're just full of
uh,
baloney? What do you say to them, or how do you deal with that if you
no,
say
I
it
just
wrong?
I'm at this point of my life that I just know that I know that I know, you know,
Yeah,
and
well, that's what
that's what
faith is.
that's
That's
what
what
faith
faith
is,
is.
I just and I just tell them, I'm like, if you just would have known, where I come from,
Yeah.
what I've been through, and where I'm at mentally, physically, and everything, spiritually today. And I mean, I guess they see that it's something with me though, because it's like it's you
Well,
know,
well,
and I'm like,
there
and
you
I was
go.
like,
And
you
that's
know,
and and that's a good example right there, because if you live your life, you know you you have your familiarity with the Bible and with Christianity, and then if you apply that to your life, people will
yeah,
see
no,
it.
you don't.
You don't have to have a tattoo across your forehead saying I believe in
Nah, you
Jesus
don't.
or I'm a Christian or I'm saved or whatever. People will see something in the way you live your
Yeah,
life, and that right there, I was kind of touching on that earlier when I was saying there's a way to to spread the word
yeah,
to people. And maybe one of the best ways, I'm not saying it's the only way, but one of the best ways is if you as a Christian or I as a Christian just live your life the way you know it's supposed to be lived based upon what you know about the Bible. And people
yeah,
will see it and people will ask
yeah.
questions.
I mean,
And that's,
that's
yeah,
that's
I
what's
believe
happening
that.
now. You know, my mom, she's always been a believer, but she never went through it either. You know, like learning it and stuff like that.
No.
She was just like, you know, just a hope. I would call it more of a hope.
Yeah.
But when she
Yeah.
started seeing me, you know, change,
She saw the
she's
change.
you know,
Yeah.
and just she started feeling safe that you know her son she's not waiting on that phone call anymore and stuff like that. And I'm like, Mom, you have to pick up the Bible, Mom, you have to pick up the Bible.
Yeah.
Start just read the Gospel of John, you know, just start there and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Just and she just
Yeah.
started reading a couple chapters and she just called me back and she's like, can I start in the Acts of the Apostles now? And she was addicted, you
Yeah.
know, she
Yeah.
was hooked and it was
Yeah.
just and I
Yeah.
mean that's what the Bible says too, you know, just your house will be saved, you know, and
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
he stands by you know he stands by his promise, and I just so nice to see
And it's all about, yeah, it's, you know, when you take it in and then you start applying it to your life, then things
things
open up,
open up,
you know,
and it's
things open
amazing,
up.
and I wouldn't.
So you're in a good place now. You've got your feet on the ground. You've got, you're working now,
No, I'm
right?
actually going full-time Bible school.
Okay. Full-time
Yep.
Bible school.
So
Yes. Yes. But you've got your feet on the ground. Your head is straight. Do you have any fear of sliding
no,
back? You're,
nope,
you're
I'm
solid
solid.
now.
It
Yeah.
took. I mean, it didn't happen overnight, but just
When's the last time you committed any kind of illegal act, smoked weed or any other drugs? How long ago was
a
that
year and a
now?
half.
Year and a
Yep.
half. No, no desire. You don't miss it. There's no hole in your existence because you don't do
Nope.
that anymore.
I just, I just, you want to quit something, you know, you have to exchange it with something, you know, and basically,
Say it again for the people in the back. That is so
yeah,
important. If you want to quit something, you have to put
you
something
know,
in its
I mean, if
place.
like people want to quit smoking, don't start with the quitting part. Start with the
Yeah,
wanting, you know, because when you learn, you know, you teach yourself to, you basically, you really want it. When you tell yourself every day
yeah,
you really want it, you're basically giving yourself a prize by not doing it. You know what I'm saying? You need to exchange it.
exactly.
You need to get a prize by not doing it. You know?
You know, you're obviously and proudly Christian, but there's a little bit of Zen Buddhism in what you said right
Yeah,
there. I mean, but there's that. I mean, that right there is just straightforward
yeah.
wisdom,
Wisdom.
and that is a that's something that people need to. I know there's people
Uh,
listening who have issues with drugs or you know addiction to cigarette, you know
yeah.
whatever. I know because I've
Uh,
talked with them, and I hope they're listening. I hope they heard you
yeah,
say that. You have to start with not don't start with the quitting. Start with the wanting
yeah.
to quit.
I mean, because then you get,
And if you and when you get rid of it, you've got to be replacing with
yeah,
something.
you got to. I mean, if not, you.
That's so
I mean, even the
important.
Bible. I mean, that's like psychology 101. But I mean, the Bible explains it to you too. You know, repent to me. Don't just stop sinning,
Yes,
but fill. You know, go to Him. Go to Him. Go to Him. Just don't. You can't. You can't. We can't stop in our own self. You know. But we,
my grandmother, may she rest in peace. Just a beautiful country woman from Kentucky, the Kentucky mountains, Christian
uh,
lady. And if we ever messed up and did something wrong, and I'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Grandma," she says, "I know you are, but do you mean
do
it?
you mean it? That's true.
Yeah, do you really mean it?
That's
Yeah."
true.
So yeah, I mean, and that's reflected in the
Yeah.
Bible. Talk, when you talk about repentance, don't just stop sinning, but repent
Yeah.
from sin. Two totally
That's
different
true.
things. One is easier and one involves quite a bit
Yeah,
more work.
it's basically impossible.
One will not last, one is more likely
Yeah.
to last, you know. So yeah, like grandma used to say, yeah, I know you are, but do you mean it?
So that's why I'm going
So
to Bible school right now, because
okay.
I want to be able to share my testimony and reach as many people as I can, and because I know what it's like. I can put myself in many people's shoes, and say that it
Yeah.
is a way out. You know.
You could be a great public speaker. I'm serious. You could tell, you know what, you've talked with me now for an hour and 50 minutes roughly. And I'm just checking my timer there. I don't want this to stop. Um, and I've been captivated the
Oh,
entire
that's
time. So that's an hour and 50 minutes. If you take away my, I don't know, 45 minutes of my babbling, and let's say you have an hour and 5 minutes to give a seminar,
there you
there you
go.
go. And people would listen to this. This is something that school children would
Yeah,
listen to. You know, a school would book you
yeah,
to give a talk about your life. Of course, churches would book you to speak for youth
yeah,
groups at a church. I'm sure even business people would book you for something
yeah.
like that. It's just a little
Yeah,
idea I throw out there.
I appreciate it. That's kind of what I'm kind of hoping for, to find a way through that. And
It can give you a good living, and it can spread the message to literally thousands of
so
people.
that's like my dream. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm shooting for,
Yeah.
just got to take it step by step. But
Can I ask you now? Now, I don't know Brittany, by the
yeah,
way. Brittany just sent me that message because I put the word out in this
yeah,
Americans in Norway group on Facebook, and then she told me about you. So I don't know her, so I don't want you to feel like I'm getting into any
no,
personal
no,
business. But how, in relation to your
yeah.
story, how are you two today? How do you two manage doing the divorced parent thing with the kids and
She
everything?
moved on with her life, and she's doing really good. I'm really proud of her. She's going to college or high school in Norwegian,
Yep.
and
Yep.
she's stable. I mean, me and her, we're actually really good friends, and she
Okay.
brings the
Yeah.
kids to come visit me here and stuff like that, and because I
Yeah.
don't have a driver's license yet and stuff like that, little consequences of my actions, but so
Yeah.
that
How soon until you can
oh,
get
that'll
it
be a
back?
couple years. But in
Okay.
Norway, I mean, we can take trains and stuff like that. But I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
she's just
absolutely.
been a real hero of for me, just she being stable, taking care of the kids. Really, I
Yeah,
mean, I couldn't ask
yeah,
for a better partner to raise some kid with.
that's beautiful.
So
And if someone has to divorce, if a couple has to divorce, this is the way it
yeah,
should be. You should still be able to, when there's kids involved, you should still be able to
yeah.
make it work.
I
So
mean,
that's good
we
to hear.
managed to live.
That's real
We
good.
managed to live together for 9 years. So I mean, we should be able to
Yeah,
get along.
it
No, it
wasn't all
wasn't all
bad.
bad. We should be able
Exactly.
to get along. So we get
Exactly.
along really good, and so I mean, she sees that I'm in a good place. I haven't heard her say it yet, but I know she's proud of me, and she knows my struggle.
I'm
Yeah.
sure she is. I'm sure she's going to listen to this when it posts. So maybe you'll get a phone call from her, and she'll say it straight out.
Shout
Yeah.
out to you, Brittany. You're doing a good job.
There you go, Brittany. Well, listen, Thomas, I'm almost speechless. I don't know how to thank you for doing this. Um, this has been one of my probably my absolute most inspiring podcast episode I've ever had. Your story is really fantastic. I thank you for sharing it here on my podcast.
Thank you for being
It's
here.
it's going to be out there for well, like I said, you fall in line with what the goal of my podcast is. So it's been a blessing to be able to talk to you like this. And I say this to some people, not a lot of people, but because if I ask someone to be on my podcast, no matter who they are, it's because something about them
Yeah.
interests me. Something gives me respect. And then very often at the end of the podcast episode, I consider them a friend. So I want to tell you, I consider you a friend and a brother, and let's
Yeah,
stay
let's
in
do that,
touch.
man. I appreciate this.
Let's stay in touch. Beautiful story. Thanks for
Thanks
sharing
for
it here
having
with
me.
me. Can you hang on for a couple minutes after I
Sure.
sign off here? Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been the Coming On podcast with John Allen. Thanks for listening. Take this story, run out there and do something with it.
Amen.
Bye, everybody.